Hi, this is John Foley with Information Week. Startup City has come to Boston to meet with local technology startup companies. With me is Patrick Morley, the president and CEO of Bit9, a local company that has created an application for whitelisting. Patrick, welcome to Startup City. Let's talk about whitelisting. What is it and how is it different from blacklisting?
Hi, John. Today, every PC, almost every PC in the world has a blacklist on it. Now, most people don't think about that, but that blacklist is provided by the major AV vendors in the world, Symantec, McAfee, Kaspersky, others. And that blacklist essentially defines a list of things, typically they're applications or executables, that you don't want running on your PC because they're bad, they're malicious. And the common term in the industry is malware. That's a blacklist. And if you think about the analogy for your house or for a building, that type of security essentially would say, I'm going to have a list of all the bad guys in the world, and I'm going to have someone out front who's looking for the bad guys. Now, you would never set up your security that way for a building or for your house because it's almost infinite. And when the PC industry first started off, the amount of malware was so small that they thought, well, this would be the easiest way to do it. We'll just track the bad stuff. What companies have realized over the last year or so is that that focus no longer works. In 2007, the amount of malware that was produced was more than the past 20 years all added together. And so what companies, customers, our customers, the industry is recognizing is that malware is almost infinite. Particularly now that you've got organized crime very involved in creating versions of malware that morph every 12 hours. So the signature changes. So malware may have looked one way 12 hours ago, and now its unique identifiers are different. And so what Bit9 does is we provide a whitelist. It's called application whitelisting. And it essentially is the way you would want to set up security for a building or for your house. It says only let me have a list of the good stuff, the goodware as they call it, and what I'm going to try and do is I'm only going to allow the good stuff to run. Just as you would with building security, if you have a unique identifier, I know who you are, I'll allow you to come into my building. It's the same with your PC. If I want you to run, I know you're a known good, I'm going to allow you to run. And that's what application whitelisting is all about. And so our product is called Parity. It essentially provides what I just described, application whitelisting. And so I can set up and define a list of applications that I want to allow to run on my PC, and only those applications will run. So if something bad ends up on my PC and tries to run, Parity stops it and says, I don't know what this is, and won't allow it to run. So that's the basic premise of application whitelisting.
Could you describe Bit9's architecture? Is it server-based software with a desktop component?
It's a relatively common architecture, just like everyone sees with their security products today. So we have a server component, a console. We have a piece of software, an agent that sits on every PC. So when deployments are done across thousands of desktops, all those PCs are in essence monitored. And we're watching what processes are trying to execute on each one of those PCs. Now, Parity is something that sits inside of a company, or someday will probably sit on a consumer's desktop. It interacts with something that we call the Global Software Registry. And the Global Software Registry is the world's largest database of software programs. We have indexed 6.5 billion files over the last few years. We can uniquely identify over 10 million software programs. And so when we install our product, the first thing someone does is they actually run Parity, and Parity does a one-time scan and sees everything that's running on that particular machine, or if it's across an enterprise, all of the machines. It then compares that list against the Global Software Registry and tells typically an IT administrator what's running on those PCs. And they're always surprised, not just by the good stuff or the bad stuff, but many times by a lot of things that people download and put on their machines, from Tiger Woods golf to Skype to lots of games to peer-to-peer products.
Bit9 recently announced that retailer Marks & Spencer will use its technology to help protect 16,000 point-of-sale systems. How does Parity help with POS security?
So if you think about what I've just described, the model I've just described, point of sale systems over the last few years have become much more accessible in that they tend to use USB ports to plug in all the peripherals, and that has enabled breaches in many cases. And so all point of sales machines these days, for the most part, are protected by AV, a blacklist. Marks and Spencer made the decision, as are other retailers such as PetSmart, Ritz Camera, TJX, to go the opposite way. Rather than having to send updates, AV updates down, signature updates down every single day to that POS device, what whitelisting provides the ability to do is to only allow specific applications to run, which is a great fit for point of sale. It's a defined universe of applications. You know exactly what applications should be running. You only allow those applications to run on those point-of-sale devices. And so that's the decision that Marks and Spencer made. Now, in the next few weeks, we're going to be announcing our POS Parity for POS product, which is a product that's specifically tailored to the point-of-sale environment and enables companies to solve the problem I just described. And also to solve the problem of PCI compliance, which is a big driver inside the retail markets today.
Patrick Morley with Bit9, thanks very much.
Thanks, John.